Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he and him, and I will be your GM tonight as we do a play test of Checkpoint Midnight, Cloven Pines Games, a game of supernatural spies in Vienna. Let's meet our players. So I guess just in the order I have you at the bottom of my thing here. So John, why don't you introduce yourself? And name, pronouns, and anything else you might care to add.
Hi, I'm John, he, him pronouns. I've been playing with the Gauntlet for a couple of years.
Amazing. Jex, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jex Thomas, they, them pronouns. I've also been playing with Gauntlet for a couple of years.
Wonderful. Robbie?
Hi, I'm Robbie. I use he, him pronouns. Been playing with the Gauntlet for a few years, sometimes as a player, sometimes as a GM. Like them both.
Wonderful. And Puckett?
Hi there, I'm Puckett. I use he, him pronouns. I am joined tonight by a sleepy cat.
Wonderful. And yes, many people mentioned the Gauntlet. We are playing this game through the Gauntlet Gaming Calendar. The Gauntlet is a community of people who play role-playing games. And there is also online, and then there's, all kinds of things. There's forums, there's podcasts, there's a publishing wing. Lots of Gauntlet stuff. Check us out, gauntlet-rpg. I'm going to say it's com. It might be net. You'll find it. And yeah, so that is wonderful. So we are using a number of safety tools tonight. Tool number 1, we are using the X card. Anyone can say X or type X in our private chat or go like this in front of the camera or indicate in any way that you would like to use the X card. And we will excise some content of your choice from the game. No justification required. I may ask a question or two just to get a pin on exactly what's being X card so it does not come back up again. Number 2, we are using a number of Bo Sheldon's not lines of bells, excuse me, we're using those too, but Bo Sheldon's script change tools. That includes rewind, which lets you say rewind and go back to at any point previous in the fiction and erase everything that happened since then. It's gone. Again, no explanation required. I may ask a question or two to make sure that we don't, repeat the mistake again. But that's there for more than just sort of like picking out a thing or two, but like just really, we're going to rewind a whole bunch of stuff in the fiction and move forward as if it never happened. You can pause. Pause stops the action in the fiction for however long we want. I find it most useful for 2 things. Number 1, if you just need to pause and take a break and say, hey, things are getting heavy here, pause. Great thing for that. I just need a moment to take my breath. It can also be helpful if there's a lot going on and it gives you a tool to say, pause. I want to have a conversation about what's happening here, not necessarily remove any content, but just talk about things a little bit outside of the fiction. It gives us a formal tool to do that. So pause is either for, I need a break right now, like right now, or step out of the fiction to have a meta conversation. And then when we're ready, we can hit play and continue. The third script change tool we are using is fast forward. Fast forward lets us move through some fiction that's about to happen that we know it happens in the fiction, but we don't want to put the camera on. The example I like to give is a beloved NPC is about to die. NPC, excuse me. We all know it. We all agree that is a reasonable thing in the fiction and no one is upset about it, but we don't want to have it on camera. So we'll say, let's just fast forward through that. It will have happened, but we won't dwell on the moment or really put it on camera in a meaningful way. It will just be something that happened off screen. So that is script change. The third set of safety tools we are using is lines and veils. We have a list of lines, which are things which will not appear in the fiction at all, and veils, things which can appear in the fiction but will not be put on screen. Lines are pretty straightforward. If something is a line, it just doesn't happen. Veils are the classic example is a couple kisses. The screen fades to black and opens back. The next scene opens back up again with the 2 of them smoking cigarettes in bed. Everybody knows exactly what happened, but we didn't put it on camera. So those are veils. Those are things that are veiled will act like that. And final safety tool is the open door policy, which is enacted in all Gauntlet games. Anyone who at any point wants to get up for any reason may. No justification or need required. If you're not going to come back, if you could say so, that would be great. But if you can't for whatever reason, that is fine. Any questions about safety tools? No? Wonderful. Then let us meet our characters. And we are going to go left to right across our character keeper. So we are going to start with Robbie. Why don't you introduce us to Gemma?
Okay, so I'm playing Gemma, who is from the constructed playbook with the specific role of the golem. Gemma, I have as the pronouns they, them. I think Gemma, it depends partly on what Gemma is wearing at the time. Sometimes Gemma might, people would use he, him, sometimes she, her, sometimes maybe they don't know. And so Gemma is somewhat indeterminate. And Gemma is a golem made out of clay, has a mystic word that is running down their spine. Gemma can't see the word actually, except in a mirror. Often kind of is going back there to feel the word, which is in this clay going down the spine. And what else do I need to say about Gemma? Maybe
a little bit about what you were up to last session.
Yeah, I mean, the last session we started out on a mission, and Gemma had previously run into, initially it was a girl. She's since grown up to be a young woman who named Hilda, who had befriended me, and who in turn I helped to reconstruct her house when it was destroyed. And we are on a mission on a boat with some shady characters, but
to be clear, it's a party boat. It's not like a pirate ship. It's like a
correct.
You know.
But I was surprised to see Hilda working as a bartender on this boat. And it is a boat that we know has some people who are dealing in contraband or other black market type operations.
That is right. Yes, the Clockmaker, or the black marketeer who has leverage on you all, sent you out to deal with these people who he knows nothing about really, but he knows that they've been sort of bypassing his networks of getting things in and out and around the city of Vienna, and he doesn't like that. So he sent you to get them to either sort of pay his taxes and work with him, or for you to eliminate them. Excellent. And yeah, so that is Gemma. Wonderful. Next, Jex, why don't you tell us about Vald?
Yeah, I'm playing Vald Lesovic, he or they pronouns. Vald is the Guardian playbook, specifically a Leshy, so a sort of forest deity. Vald lives in the Schönbrunn Zoo in Vienna, in an old part of it that was once, the wild, I guess, kind of a slice of the wild within the city. And my kind of most notable thing that happened last session was I am being traded to this dealer of magical creatures. So that'll be fun.
Well, he's asked. I don't think that you've been actively traded yet. Yes, wonderful. And John, why don't you tell us about Anton?
Hi, I'm playing Anton Schill, who is kind of like makes himself out like a traveling salesman. He goes around like with the big briefcase that would have like the things you're selling. But he is a storied collector, which means that as a collector, he can produce like magical items from like out of his pockets, or in this case, from his case. And he is trying to get a hold of this book called Divine Contracts with Illustrious Beings. The reason he's trying to get a hold of it is because he thinks it will help get him out of a literal deal that he has made with the devil, and that kind of gave him this power of like he can make these deals with other people as well, kind of on behalf of the devil. And there's also like an angel looking for the book, all these crazy things. And I'm probably forgetting something, but that's it. Full overview.
Wonderful. Yeah. And what were you up to last session? We heard a little bit about it from Vald, but
yeah. So we were talking to this. I don't know if we really know a name for this crew. They're like the Eggheads or something.
I gave you a name. It was the. But no, I don't remember it anymore. It was the. I'll tell you. I have it written down. I think Hilda gave the name to Gemma, but if not, I'll just give it to you and we can pretend that she did. They are called the Birkenfeld Consortium.
Oh, that's right. The Birkenfeld Consortium. So I was kind of talking to Hans Adler. Is that the guy who's the head of? Yeah. So I was talking to him and trying to make a deal on behalf of the Clockmaker, where basically he's going to kind of agree that the Clockmaker is like maybe not his boss, but that he owes some fealty to the Clockmaker, and that's when we got to this idea of like trying to get him to another meeting by showing him what Vald can do.
Right, and the place we ended the session on, the sort of cliffhanger we ended on, was in return for Vald, who had transformed, who had shown, I don't know if it was their true form, but certainly a magical form that he can take. Hans Adler was willing in exchange for Vald to add to his collection. We don't know exactly. He would absolutely agree to pay whatever sort of fees the watchmaker required. And skip even needing to meet with the watchmaker. Right. And yes, just to sharp your mission. So your clear mission objective is to either get him to agree to pay the protection, or to them to agree to pay the protection, or to eliminate them. A meeting would not meet that objective, but it could be a step towards it. And now to meet the character whom we have not seen yet, Puckett, would you like to introduce us to Lily?
Yes. Tonight I'll be playing Lily Krause. She is a young woman, probably 21, 22. And basically all she has known in her life is fleeing oppression. She is Roma, and as such, a lot of her family didn't survive World War II. And she is also a ghost speaker. She found this out when she was very young, and a spirit entered her and proceeded to tell stories about everyone at the campsite that they were in. That these stories were true really didn't have much of a soothing effect, because the spirit decided to tell all the wicked things that everyone at the campsite had done. That was in a way fortunate, because that meant that her parents were already moving south toward Austria as the raids, as the arrests started getting bad. But Austria wasn't a shelter. So now the war's over. She can move about a little bit more freely, although she often tries to conceal her identity as she tries to find any members of her family who survived. Any questions?
Yeah, I don't think I do. I think it was very nicely described. Can you tell me about you have tell me about you have a you answered most of these backstory questions.
Oh, there
Uh,
was one I didn't.
I don't think you mentioned. Tell me a little bit more, if you said this. I'm sorry, about the person who someone prominent in the city hired you to use your abilities to solve a mystery.
Now, that's a question that I'd like to put to the table. And let me
Sure.
read through what I know. So Matthias Kohn, who is he's this kind, decent man. He has some wealth. He has some political ambition. He would like to become a politician of sorts. You know, he has family money that has put him in this, that has given him the ability to do so. But he had heard stories about my abilities and gave me some tasks. You know, simple things. Can you find my car keys? Here's this lost object that I seek, and so on and so forth. It took some time before I realized that he was testing me before he gave me the task that he really wanted the answer to. And he wanted to know what his father actually did during the war. His father had passed some years before, and that was a question that young Matthias never had answered. So the spirits have led me to the answer, and I have the answer. But my question is, should I tell him the truth and shatter his world, or should I lie and either make up a story or simply say that I failed, even though I didn't, just to give him some measure of peace, because he's actually good. And I don't know that I want to give that burden to a good person.
So it's an interesting question. Personally, I think either one is interesting. It will obviously affect their motivation towards you later.
Mhm.
I will say that regardless of what you tell him, you have this information now. And consequently, from the perspective of the question, if you succeed, gain leverage over them, you do have that leverage.
Okay.
Right? You have that information that you can use, regardless of whether or not you've informed them. What does everyone else think is most interesting?
I guess I really like that idea of not burdening him because he's good. Like that really kind of hit. So I think that's sort of what I think is more interesting.
Okay. There we go then.
Have you told any of the other piece? Well, let's hold on. Actually,
Sure.
So I'm gonna ask. I may ask that question later. Wonderful. Another question I want to ask you is, what what did you do when you first came to Vienna that you're not proud of? To try and find shelter, and that the watchmaker knows about.
Basically, parlor tricks.
Sure.
I I could have been using my skills for more beneficial things, for things that would actually help people, for things that would make their lives better or ease their grief or their suffering. And instead, I wound up doing seances for well-to-do matrons who just wanted to feel a bit of unease, a bit of spookiness in their life. They wanted the crystal ball, they wanted the headscarf covering, and they wanted me to play up everything stereotypical, everything that they thought some sort of medium should embody. And as long as I played that role, I was able to make a fairly decent bit of money. But the spirits grew angrier and angrier with me every time I did it, and I can't blame them.
Sure.
It took a while to pay off that debt, to gain their trust again.
Sure. And meanwhile, the watchmaker knows all of the high society people that you duped. And that's the leverage he has on you. The watchmaker has leverage on each and every one of you. Wonderful. Okay, so that's great. I love that. Let's talk about relationships. So we have these relationship questions, and we're just going to go one by one. Everyone has already answered one of their three, but Lily, why don't you pick one of your three relationship questions and see if they're either that there's one of the other characters that you think is a great fit, or if one of the other characters says, "Hey, this is really calling to me."
Alrighty, 2 seconds here.
Sure.
I was just scribbling down the rest of the note about that question.
Yep, absolutely.
So, okay, who is too interested in my curse? I mean, I don't necessarily think of it as a curse, but you might, because, I mean, I can't go anywhere in this city without the dead talking to me. I mean, Austria, Vienna is an old city. Yeah. There's a lot of dead here.
I saw Anton raising his hand.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I'd be interested.
What's your angle?
Well,
I know that I think what the angle is. So this is why I'm asking, like, what the angle actually is, so I can kind of step back from that and say what I think it is, if that's
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and Anton, the answer can be, I don't have an angle. I just like this stuff. But knowing Anton, that's probably not true.
I'm hoping that the ghosts are going to help me track down the book I'm looking for.
Okay. So you obviously want something from me, and I think it's probably just something to enrich yourself, or you're trying to use me like so many other people have used me for some sort of physical material gain now, as opposed to something that is more lasting, more meaningful, more important. Okay.
It's important to me, though.
Everything's important to the person who wants it.
For sure. Okay. That's it. Now, Anton. How about you? Why don't you pick one of your unassigned relationship questions, and ask it and see again if it calls to you, or if there's someone you think it obviously apply. Oh, you're gone. John, you with us? You're muted. Oh, you need a sec? Do you need a second? I'm not sure what happened there, but that's fine. We can cut to Vault and come back.
I'm sorry. I didn't unmute. Sorry.
I just wasn't. Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Sorry, someone was like, it's fine.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, do you have a relationship question you want to ask and bring to the table here? One of the two that's not assigned yet.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe I'm trying to think who has a tragedy that I could be connected to.
Oh, if you're not sure,
hello?
you can see.
Sorry?
Hello, I'm still trying to track down my family.
Oh, okay. So let's see. How would I have been connected to that?
I mean, there's a really obvious answer that's also really terrible.
Don't you know somebody who supplied the trucks?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so like that they took your family, and I had that on my conscience.
Maybe. I don't know that you have to go that hard. I think that I think we can. I think we can leave it a little bit more open than that, right? Where it's where right here Zimmerman was involved with transport and maybe mentioned someone that sounds like it could be Lily's family, right? And so so that's maybe he was involved directly with their transport. Maybe he didn't put them. Maybe they didn't go on the trucks. Maybe something else happened, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's better not to box it in that way. And so it
could just be that he did that sort of work, and now you know somebody who has a personal connection to the impact of that. So it's a little bit more humanized. There's a face with it now.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Wonderful. All right, Vald, how about you? Relationship questions. Unassigned relationship questions.
Yeah. Let's see. You observed blank for a long time before being formally introduced. What fascinates you about them? I think, if it's okay with you, Robbie, I think this is probably Gemma. And I think that I don't know. I'm fascinated by and just sort of everything you are, right? Like, so I'm this sort of like nature deity, right? And you're this creature that's like created by someone and like in a sense almost like the opposite of natural. I mean, we can debate whether that's actually the case or not, but like I think that's sort of how Vald thinks of it. So Vald finds Gemma just completely fascinating. You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. And I think, possibly, Vald is trying to figure out, I mean, because there is something about Gemma that is natural, right? He's kind of formed out of the clay from this cemetery, right? And yet, right, he's how he gets animated and he's not like the Leshy in some significant ways. So, right, I think, Gemma would be in this kind of curious twilight zone for Vald, that there would be aspects of Gemma that kind of remind him of, spirits of nature, but simultaneously there's something that seems quite unnatural about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think so. What I started writing is Gemma. They are a mix of the unnatural and the uncanny.
Yeah, I wonder if I feel like there's a little discomfort with the word unnatural there. I wonder if artificial might be more useful. But if people are cool with unnatural, we can stick with it.
I changed it to uncanny, just as sort of a supernatural kind of.
Sure. Yeah, supernatural rather than natural, for sure. Cool. And yeah, Gemma, how about you? And you're going to do 2 in a row. We're going to snake it back the other way. So if that's cool.
Okay. So,
and just quickly remember, you don't have to assign all of these. If like the last one left doesn't fit any of the characters or no one's interested in it, you can not fill it in if you want, but they're all available if you want them.
Okay. So, someone is wise and has taught me much about humanity. And I was thinking that it would make sense for that to be Lily.
That works. I mean, I know a lot about humanity because I've got a lot of spirits yelling at me all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to know, Gemma, at least like one, or Lily, like what's one lesson that you've learned from her?
What do you think, Robbie?
Well, I'm wondering if part of it is right. I hardly know who my maker was, and my maker. I mean, there's that kind of sense of loss that immediately, right, shortly after I made my maker was taken away, and the fact that Lily still has. I mean, she doesn't give up on the people that she has lost. That kind of hope, that kind of idea that she can still continue to pursue to try to find out what happened to those people. Right, that kind of undying spirit, I think, is something that I've taken away.
I think something from Lily's perspective would be looking at your interest in finding your maker and then trying to teach you and show you that that's only the first step. The rest of it is that we all make ourselves every day all over again. So who initially made you is less important than what you make of yourself with each passing day.
Very nice. You good with that one, Robbie? Great. So how about, do you wanna assign your last relationship? Or would you rather sort of, does it not seem to fit? Well, why don't you read it out loud and we can talk about it?
Yeah, and so the last one is someone is foolish and clearly mistaken about their own purpose. You will help them.
So the last person sort of left is Vald. Do you have an idea for that? Does that work for you, or would you rather just say, you know what, I don't think that's a good relationship for us, and leave it? You're already connected through Vald's relationship, so we don't need it really, but it is a cool relationship.
Yeah, I'm not kind of thinking right off the bat of like what I would think Vald is mistaken about and how I would help.
Do you think like that I'm foolish for trying to like protect sort of the old ways, protect nature like that? Or I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my whole thing, right?
Right. If righteousness is to innovate, right? What does it mean to preserve?
Right. That he's too stuck on the past. Well, that would work for me.
Cool.
Right, and how I would help them is to somehow it's tied to that idea of innovation, right? That I might be able to kind of impart to Vald a sense that you can remain true to who you are, but you don't have to just stay kind of wedded to the old ways.
Amazing. That's great. Cool. Coming back to you, Vald. So do you have someone that you think? Why don't you read your last one and see if you think it fits? It fits Lily or not?
Yeah,
Lily thinks it fits.
I think it probably does. I'd like to hear what Puckett thinks. But Blank has something they care about as much as you care about your home. Do you respect or pity them?
I'm trying to find people who may not be alive anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your home is one place. My heart is scattered around who knows where. Who knows among how many people, who knows whether any of them are still alive.
Yeah.
I might be searching for graveyards. So
Yeah. And I think that's why I pity you. I mean, pity in the like most neutral, I guess, sort of form of the word. Like,
Yeah.
that I have a lot of sort of this sadness on kind of for you.
you recognize the loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially my home has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, consistently over the decades. So it's a different kind of loss, but loss all the same.
Mhm.
Sure. That's wonderful. So do you respect, it sounds like you respect that. Am I getting that right? Or do you pity it?
It's sort of, it's kind of both, right? Like, I have a lot of like pity in the sense of a lot of sort of sadness about Lily's situation, but I think I do also respect her perseverance and resilience.
Sure. Amazing. Okay, Anton, how about you? Your last relationship there. Do you think it fits anyone? Why don't you read it and see if you think it fits anybody or not, or if anybody thinks it fits them? Really, Lily is the one who's not Lily. Sorry, Vald is the one who's left. So
Yeah, you've shared some, but not all of your secrets with blank.
I think it's funny given our current situation, of kind of in a sense you sort of selling me off potentially. So like if I kind of know some of your tricks and your schemes and stuff like that, I think that might actually make me trust you a little bit more in this moment to be doing. I guess my whole thing for you is sort of I don't trust you because I'm worried that you want to collect from my home. But I think that I probably have a lot of trust for you in these kinds of situations that you can like be convincing, and then also that you don't. Maybe the reason I think you don't want to get rid of me is because I think that you want to collect from my home and you need me to do that. So I think this makes sense. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that sounds just right. And again, like having like an ally like a nature spirit being, I think might also help me in this search for the book I'm looking for. So yeah, absolutely, that sounds good to me.
and it makes sense that if you know some of his secrets, right, about what he's looking for and how he's looking for it, right, right, like that makes you both on the one hand trust him more because you know his goals, but also know that when it comes down to some of those bigger things, he can't necessarily be trusted, right? Because of what he's really after. That's fantastic. Okay, Lily, you still have 2 relationships left, so why don't you pick one?
Okay, so I have a question and a suggestion for it.
Sure.
So blank might be worse off than you. Why are you drawn to them despite your better judgment? And I have a sneaking suspicion that's Vault, because I think Vault can understand it, but it also seems like Vault is a more dangerous person, someone who might be more likely to use force to resolve some of these issues. And I tend to be a little trickier about such things. I have to be. I mean, I'm not particularly strong. I'm not particularly gifted in, combat or hand-to-hand combat or self-defense. So it occurs to me that maybe I'm drawn to that element of physicality, thinking that perhaps we can help each other. I can handle some things and maybe we can trade off in that respect.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, the way I've kind of thought about Vald's like relationship to violence is that it's the move that I took, right? What is it? Animal in a corner, I think is what it's called, right? Or cornered animal, right? So I think that I really only resort to violence when I'm put in that kind of a situation. But I'm also sort of like a wolf, right? Like a wolf actually isn't typically that dangerous. They don't actually like attack people all the time like sometimes we think, but like you also don't want to fuck with a wolf, right? So I kind of think that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. So let me sketch that in real quick, or like write that in real quick. So, and then Blank says they understand what you're going through. Why don't you know if you can believe them? And I feel like that's Gemma, because I feel like, well, Gemma feels like they're learning from me about what it means to be human. I'm kind of wondering. I mean, yes, we all make who we are every single day. We make ourselves up anew, but at the same time, Gemma's a life form that is alien to me. And I don't know if Gemma feels the same things the way that I do, or in the same ways. I mean, does Gemma have a heart? Does Gemma have a brain? Or is Gemma as like a set of animating glyphs? So it doesn't mean that I don't like Gemma or don't respect Gemma, but it's like the way that you know that a dog likes you is because it doesn't bite you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it understands you, if that makes sense. It's just an alien life form.
Yeah, and maybe there's this suspicion Lily has that when Gemma says that they understand what Lily is going through, I mean, part of Lily wants to believe that, but part of Lily is thinking, well, maybe Gemma is just saying that to continue on the relationship with Lily so that she'll show Gemma more about humanity. Lily's already probably picked up that Gemma is been kind of needy and kind of seeking her out to learn more about what it means to be human.
I think it's worth just pointing out something. I don't know that got flagged, but I think that because when Robbie introduced Gemma, he didn't mention this, but you both have something very strongly in common, which is that you both lost, or both of you both lost people specifically to the Holocaust, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically to the Nazi, not just the war, but the Nazi machinery of death. And yes, and neither of you knows if those people are dead or not, right? They're just gone, taken away.
But at the same time, I look at it and it's like, I'm human, you're a golem. Yeah. What does that loss mean to each of us? How is it different? Does it have the same like weight for you? So yeah, I mean, if you're okay with playing like it that way, and especially and if anybody else at the table wants to clarify or add something or kind of shape something so it's less disturbing or moves perhaps away from something that's more triggering, please speak up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's a really great. All right, Gemma. Now I'm going to come back to you and ask this leverage question. Right, and then we'll dive into the scene. So Gemma, in your own unusual way, you care about everyone. Give leverage to all fellow PCs. So everybody, take leverage on Gemma. Vald. These people don't understand you, but their help could be vital. Give leverage to 2 other PCs. So which 2 PCs do you think are most vital to help you?
Oh, that seems like an unfair question.
Oh, it's intensely unfair.
I think definitely Anton. I think that whole web of trust and mistrust is
So Anton, take leverage on Vald. There's a place to put the people you have leverage on on your and you also have it on Herr Zimmerman.
And I think I don't know. I'm kind of torn because on the one hand, sort of Lily has this connection to the past that I sort of it's not exactly a yearning for the past, right? But certainly not like Vald has. But there's that. But then also, I don't know. Like I guess my first instinct here was sort of Gemma, but I'm not entirely sure why.
Gemma, do you know why that might be? Why does Vald feel like they need your help?
Maybe because Gemma's tie to Vienna is so strong, and that you have that strong tie. I mean, it's that kind of bond with the city itself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that kind of plays into too that sort of the relationship you have with me, right? If it's this representation of the old ways, and the city itself is innovation. I really like that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's awesome. Anton, you keep things professional, but there are favors you owe. Give leverage to half the other PCs, rounded down. So basically, who are you not giving leverage to? And everyone else should take it. Vault. So that means that, yeah, okay, great. Good.
I feel like the person who wouldn't have leverage over me would probably be Gemma, just because I feel like I kind of hold the cards in that relationship.
Sure. But you've done things to help Lily involved, and so, which I think fits your relationships in both cases fairly well. So that's great. Yeah. So, yeah, I think you leverage is binary. You only ever have, you either have it or you don't. You don't get multiple instances of leverage. Interesting how this is framed, because I think this is very different than your relationship with your powers, Lily. But your affliction can hold you back, but you'll need others if you are to defeat it. Give leverage to half the other PCs, rounded up. So this is now all the other PCs. Sorry, to half of 3 is 2. Sorry, 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Only one other person. You only give one person, Anton. I did the math wrong because I'm terrible at understanding that. But yeah, go. So Lily. So who do you think has leverage on you? Who's going to help you defeat? And maybe defeat is framed as sort of like avoid the negative consequences of your powers.
Ooh. I definitely feel like Vald has leverage. And until you framed the question that way, I was thinking Gemma, but now I'm wondering.
Well, we can talk about it a little bit. You've said you don't think of your power as a curse.
Yeah, the curse would be losing my abilities before I find the people who've been lost to me. But at the same time, one of the release moves that I picked is Cursed, hand over control to the affliction, and the MC just says what it makes you do. So maybe it's the case that Anton, like, I don't know, did some sort of exorcism for a particularly troublesome spirit that maybe didn't want to let go.
Sure. Or even, and he's someone you could turn to for that kind of help in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing.
Plus, Anton's human, and I'm sure that I can probably get spirits to curse Anton with nightmares should I need to, whereas that might not work so well with Gemma. So
fair. Okay, so that is I think all of our sort of character creation stuff. It's a little bit early, but I think maybe it makes sense. Why don't we take our first break now? Let's take 10 and come back at 2 after the hour. And then when we come back, we will find out where Lily has been on the boat while you folks have been hanging out in the casino area. Or at the very least she'll make her first appearance. So yeah, I'll see you all in about 10.
I'm back, Jesse.
Okay, we'll give John another second, and then I'll sort of reset the scene, reminding everyone where they were, and maybe ask Lily. Then we'll ask Lily to make her entrance, if that's cool.
What's on this party boat?
So I'll set the scene here for you, and then you can sort of give. So you have last week you were given a mission by the Clockmaker, whom has leverage over all of you, and as such, a certain level of control. And he sent you to discover. He doesn't know much. He knows there's a group who are based on this boat in the Danube, near the center of the city in the Russian zone, but not far from the international zone, where they're throwing a party this evening. He knows they're there. He knows they've been smuggling something in and out of the city, which you have since discovered is magical creatures of different sorts. And so he was able to get you invitations to the party. You did very well on your mission roll. And so you were sort of like immediately ushered through the party. But there's to describe the sort of the boat as a whole, is big, but not enormous, because after all, it has to fit. I mean, the Danube is a big river, but it's not the ocean, or even a lake. And so there's probably a band playing. There's sort of an open top deck where people are sort of strolling around, having their drinks. There's a big open kind of ballroom area that where the band is playing, and again, there's several bars, dancing, socializing. A smaller side room with like a buffet and places to pick up food, as well as waiters circulating with food and drinks. And then there's this sort of a smaller casino room off behind the ballroom drawing room, where most of the rest of the sort of group was ushered back because of your success to meet with Hans Adler, who is the representative of this group that you've learned is called the Birkenfeld Consortium. And you also have learned, you don't know where, but you have a sense that there is something nefarious going on below decks, in terms of the sense of sort of like, I believe Hilda told Gemma, right, that there are sometimes people come up after hours, and they may have some specks of blood on their clothes, and she sometimes hears sort of strange screams, at that time of night coming from below decks, so there's a sense that that may also be going on the boat. What else? That's sort of the main. That's like the layout. And I don't know that Lily, you would know that last part, as Gemma was just informed it. But we can finagle that if you want. And so, as we've said earlier, right, Vald and Anton are sitting. They've been sort of put behind a privacy curtain to speak with Hans. And this deal has been offered by Hans that perhaps the consortium would take Vald and Anton, and they would agree to to pay protection to the watchmaker. Gemma has been speaking to Hilda, who's a bartender in this casino room and is their old friend. And Hilda has been suggesting that Gemma should take their friend and get out of there. Their friends and get out of there. That this is not a good place for Gemma. And we'll come back to that, I think, in a moment. And that's basically what's been going on. Oh, also, a friend of Vald has apparently at this party, a Lee Sophie Klestel, who is very excited by how well kept the magical creatures in the menagerie are. how well treated they are and how healthy and fine they seem. And Vald must go see the menagerie, I believe is what she said. And she came in with a woman whom I did not name on the arm of this woman, but who I'm telling you now is named Hildegard Fuchs. And she is she was a sort of tall, thin, blonde woman dressed in a shimmering evening gown. Friend, lover, companion, unclear to Lee Sophie, but she seems to be upper crust. And that's the two of them are sitting at a table, kind of talking. And this, I think they actually started playing cards at one of the card tables in the gambling in the casino room. But Lee Sophie has promised to take Vald to see the menagerie if they want. And so that's the scene, sort of as we enter. And I'm curious, Lily. You can answer this question however you want. You can sort of put yourself somewhere else on the boat, or talk about where else you've been on the boat, or if you want to make your entrance into the casino room at this moment, you could also do that. I also just want to note, because there's like a million tabs on this character keeper, if you want to sort of like be infiltrating some of the back room areas, that's fine, but I'm going to ask you none of the available flashbacks make sense. So we can talk about sort of like how you may have gotten there and what may have happened. I think with a successful mission roll, if you want to have done that, I'm good with it.
So let me ask a question. Because I know that I'm not that good at infiltrating, exfiltrating, combat, any of the more physical stuff. I mean, I'm basically good at tracking and talking to ghosts.
Sure.
Is there any chance that we could do a roll based on my roll move, and depending on how well that goes, maybe I'm not even on the boat. I just have a spirit on the boat, kind of maybe giving people feelings about where they should go or something they should look into, or do you want me actually on the boat?
I think it's I think it's probably, you could definitely we could definitely start with you rolling your roll move.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, your roll move gets you information, right?
Okay.
You're not going to get like it's not going to get you like a servant spirit that can act for you on the boat in that way.
Fair enough.
Right.
Okay.
But you could, if you want to lead with your roll move, and then sort of we can use its result to sort of play off, okay, well, information you may have gotten before you boarded or whatever to help you out. We can do it that way.
Okay. So I've got my roll move. I roll plus Fable, and I've got Fable +1.
Well, let's before you roll, let's get some fiction here. So, like, where are you doing this? Who is the dead you're trying to talk to?
This is Vienna. The dead are literally everywhere. So, specifically, I'm looking for spirits of people who drowned in the Danube.
Sure.
Because who will know the river better than they?
Sure. And is this like near where the boat is moored, or is this somewhere else? Or is this anywhere?
I'm trying to do this, as odd as it may sound, during the day, because it's going to look a little less odd for a woman of my size and stature to be wandering about during the day.
Look, the dead are dead whatever time of day it may be.
Yes. So I think I'm starting there, but if a spirit has useful information, I'm open to listening to spirits from any part of the river in the city.
Sure. But there isn't a specific person. You're just like someone with this kind of information. Sure.
Someone who perished in the Danube and has become very accustomed to, for example, how low boats ride in the water, what kind of cargo they may be carrying.
Sure. Yeah. So what does it look like when you commune with the dead?
Initially, it doesn't really look like anything. And when I find a spirit that is willing to talk, it almost looks like I'm lost in a reverie of sorts. I mean, most people would look at it and say, ah, yes, this young woman, we've just out of the war, she's been through some trauma. Let us leave her alone. She's obviously remembering things. So, but it basically just looks like almost like I'm in a trance as I have this experience and communicate with these spirits.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, so roll.
And that gives me an 11.
Oh my, yes. Yeah, so what kind of information are you I mean, you told me in general, but like if you want to ask a very specific question, I think the spirit that answers you, at least at the beginning of the conversation, you can let's play off the conversation and you can ask your questions, I think is the way to do it.
Okay.
You hear in your trance a growl, like a deep, raspy, angry growl, like feral sounding, and you don't know. At first, you commune with the spirits of sentient creatures. I think you don't generally sort of hit like wolves or dogs or whatever, but it's like this feral canine growl. But then you hear a raspy voice saying, Who's speaking?
My name is Lily. I can speak to spirits.
And you see, like, I'm picturing you sort of on a bridge, right? A bridge
looking
near
at the river. Yeah.
Looking at the river, where you're near where the boat is moored, and you see coming up over the railing of the bridge a sort of spectral. It's somewhere between a hand and a claw. A few of the fingers do have claws on them. A few are rounded like human, and there's like tufts of thick hair on this as this spectral arm like pulls, and you see this a head gets pulled up over the the barrier, right? The thing that stops you from just falling off into the river. And it's sort of like gripping. And so the two arms are kind of like gripping over the side as if, right? And you can't see the torso, but there's this head that has, there's like the beginnings of a snout, and around the mouth, like some human teeth and some canine teeth, right? And it seems almost like, I mean, right, this is a werewolf in mid transformation, but a specter, right? And they say to you, and you can hear you can kind of hear like the gurgle of water in their spectral lungs as they speak, and as they sort of raspy growl, sometimes hard to understand, like, because their tongue is somewhere between wolf and human, right? And it's just hard for them to form the words. They say, why are you calling me?
I've seen beings like you when I was young in the forest. I wasn't calling you particularly. I've been told that bad things happen on that boat. And I point toward it.
Terrible things. What they did to me. And like gripping on with one arm, and it's the physicality of this specter is, I think, something you're not used to seeing, and maybe is an indication of how recently dead he is. But it's like it's physically difficult for this basically translucent, transparent specter to sort of but he gestures to you to look over the side of the bridge, like down to sort of the part that's hidden behind the barrier.
And I do.
Yeah, and you see that again, he's like, his torso is still very human, but then his lower body is like the back half of a wolf, fully transformed. And I'm not going to describe this in detail, right? But you can see that he has been vivisected, right? Like his body still bears the traces of the trauma. He says they do terrible things.
It looks as if they were harvesting.
I don't know their goals, but well, you see what they've made of me, and you can. This, like, you can ask him like real questions about the boat and what's on. Like, this. I'm giving you a very vivid image of what they're doing, but you kind of knew this much already to an extent, if not quite so viscerally, or the rest of the group did. But if you'd like to, but if you want to like ask other sorts of questions that are actionable, this is an opportunity to do that.
And so obviously I'm going to ask the basic questions like, can you tell us about the floor plan, where things are located? Can you tell us where it's easy to get off the boat, or where someone might be able to hide for a moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is what you'll get. I'll just give you his name. His name is Rutgar. Make it real simple. Wolf. Yeah. So he can't give you very much, and it's very pained. But he says what he can give you is that there's a series of labs, right, in sort of the in where the in below decks, right, where this kind of experimentation can be kept, and also there's sort of a holding area where subjects are kept outside of the labs as well. He says that he's even able to tell you, because he overheard some of his captors talk about it, that there's like a sort of like a hatch that opens up right at the edge of the water line below when you're actually below the level of the river, right? Like you can't open a hatch, but there's like right below the water line, there's kind of like a hatch that's not right on deck, where there's in the lab area where there's like a kind of a boat, right? So you don't have to go all the way, where there's like a little rowboat that you can sort of row in and out, which is often, especially in the evening when parties are happening on above decks, where like new subjects can be brought in, during without having to sort of like go up on land and get up on the deck, which is sort of high above the surface of the water. So I think that's what he can give you.
Okay.
There. And I think at this point he's kind of fading, right? Like it's been hard for him to have this conversation. He's still, as you can tell by like the difficulty he has sort of like clinging on, that he still feels himself as kind of like physical, and he's suffering a lot of the pain of being embodied and tortured.
And the last thing I'll say to him is, describe who did this to you, and I will try to get you what vengeance I can.
Yeah, so I think what he describes is a tall, slim, blonde woman. He doesn't know her name. She was always just called Fraulein Doctor. But if before you go on, you give her description to the rest to the rest of your friends, well, they will all recognize her on the arm of Lee Sophie, as Hildegard Fuchs.
Okay. So I'm going to relay almost all of that information to everyone. The bit about the rowboat, the bit about, the cages, the vivisection, and so on. Well, actually, I'll hold off a bit about the vivisection, but, the holding areas, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll pull Vald aside.
Mm-hmm.
Say, Vald,
Yes.
a beast that... Not a beast, that's not the right word. I saw beings like him in the forest when I was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Part man, part wolf.
Yes.
He had been cut to pieces.
And you know who did this to him?
And I say he was only able to give me a description, but this is what the woman looked like. I told him I would get what vengeance I could for him, because they cut him to pieces and then threw him into the water.
Well, I'm glad to be your collaborator in that project.
I haven't told the others. I don't think they would have the same feeling as you would about this.
Lily, I think you're probably right. Thank you for trusting me with this and for knowing that we can do what's right.
Mm-hmm. And I think so, Lily, I still kind of want a sense of well, we'll come back to you, right? We can sort of leave you in reserve for whatever action happens next. But I want to cut back to Gemma. At the bar, right? Your friends have been sort of closed off behind this curtain. You have some now the layout of the below decks area and what's going on down there. Also, don't forget to mark notoriety, Lily. For your
Oh yeah,
characters.
good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I want to make sure we didn't forget that. So Gemma, yeah. And you're at the bar, and I think Hilda is very, very forcefully turns to you and says, "Look, I don't know why you're here. I know, but I know you always get up to. You always want to cause trouble and push things and help people in need, but this is bigger than you, and it is dangerous, and they will just do to you what they do to everything else. So you need to get out of here with or without your friends." I think she's trying to talk you into a new interpretation of your word. I think what she's saying is like the right thing to do here is not to like get in over your head and elevate the innocent or renovate the guilty, right? But the right thing to do here is to step outside, right, and to not take the big risk when it's unnecessary. And so you can accept that. And we'll talk about how you want to sort of rewrite the interpretation, or you can roll keep calm or carry on to reject it, and that's one of the basic moves.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gemma. I mean, he obviously respects Hilda, but I think his response immediately is, well, if it's so dangerous, why have you remained here? Right. I mean, you should be the one to leave if this is such a dangerous place.
Mm-hmm.
I am, I'm not one to turn my back on people who might be in need. What you've said about people coming above deck with blood on them, that is a matter that I cannot simply let go.
Sure. And on that, roll, keep calm and carry on, which is you roll without a label.
Okay, so just a straight roll here.
Just a straight roll.
Let me see if so 2d6. Oh, it's a 5.
It's a 5. Oh my. So we're gonna rewrite your interpretation first of all. I think not in a way that's gonna make you like have to like flee right away. I don't think that's interesting or fair. But I think, and I don't know that I'm gonna be able to keep this in the pattern of your the way you've written this. Unfortunately, we can maybe try and play with it. But I think it's going to be righteousness is instead of to innovate, or no, instead of I am meant to reactivate, it's going to be I am meant to mediate. Let's do it that way. And so the rest of it's the same, right? She's not talking you out of wanting to help the innocent or punish the guilty or any of that. But I think what she says is, but I think she says, I think what she says is, you can't. These people, it's too much for you. You can't stop them by walking in blindly, by flailing around, by disrupting them with violence or defeating. They can't be defeated, right? You have to meet them on their terms if you're going to stay. I think that's what you're right. And instead of being about like complete change and like reactivation of the right, it becomes about taking the two sides and meeting them where they are and trying to get them to sort of deal with that. So that's number one. But we also have the rest of that keep calm and carry on move to adjudicate. So you also have to mark a condition. And I mean, you can choose whichever condition I think is best suits you, what you think makes the most sense under the circumstances.
Well, yeah, I think maybe if it's mediate and it's right all about not just right being a bull in a china shop, maybe it's the blunted condition.
Sure, yeah. So mark blunted. And you will roll weapon at -2.
And does that mean it's -2 to what my current?
Yeah. Meaning. So from
whatever
your 1 and then subtract 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like masks conditions that way. And then of course something happens. I think the thing that happens is that you get noticed. I think this heated conversation over at the bar, is noticed by what's her name? By Dr. Fuchs, Fraulein Dr. Fuchs. And she looks up and she's watching you. She hasn't done anything yet, but she's looking. Yeah. So Anton involved. Anton and Valds, you've been given this offer, and I mean, you'll still have to get out, right? There's stuff going on here, but like, if you say yes, objective met. You know, it will create complications for Valve for sure and for everybody. Sorry, I should say, if you say yes and then walk away, and Hans Adler thinks that the agreement has been met, right? You can't say yes, like it doesn't. It's not magic, right? Like, but Valve will then have to figure out a way out that doesn't make it seem like you've betrayed Adler, right? But assuming like Valve stays behind in good faith, then objective met. The watchmaker will be happy. He'll be sad to have lost such a useful pawn as Vault, but this is what pawns are for, right? So Adler looks at you sort of expectantly and says, "Yes, then. And we can keep him."
Well, Vald, how do you feel about this? I mean, like, out of character, how do you feel?
I'd also like to know how Vald is responding in character too. But
yeah, I'll let you know. I'll
pieces.
definitely let you know how Vald is responding in character. Out of character, I think this is potentially interesting, especially since I agreed to get this revenge sort of thing happening.
Mm-hmm. Maybe also, you want to be down there, right?
Also, Lily's thoughts about me and violence notwithstanding, I don't have. I have 0 in weapon. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I think I would go along with it. In character, Vol just gives you kind of an icy stare from, these animal eyes.
Okay, well then I will look at Herr Adler and say, well, maybe we could come to an agreement if if I let my friend Vald here stay with you. How long do you need him to stay for?
Oh, this isn't. I should clarify. He is not invited here as for the moment, he is my guest, as you all are. But this would not be an invitation to partake in the pleasures of our lovely cruise. He is clearly not human, and so he would just be mine, the same way I might keep a stag. This is, I thought, what you were offering.
So I like kind of like look back and look at Vald, who's glaring at me, and just kind of wink. And I say to Adler, I say, well, maybe we could come to an understanding, but in return, I would need even a little more than you swearing your fealty to the Clockmaker. I would need you to promise me no harm would come to Vald. Could you promise me that?
No, absolutely not. I'm uninterested in answering to you about how I treat my property.
Anton, it's fine. I'll go with him.
See,
he can take me wherever he wants.
Even agree.
Okay, well, still, if we were to have a deal, how about you promise that you will not harm any of us, that you will not ask any of your associates to harm any of us, including the Clockmaker, and you swear your fealty to him?
Well, fealty is a bit much. I will agree that so long as this creature remains in my possession. Well, no, that's too. Sorry, stepping outside. That's too much because right, he may decide he wants to get rid of him, and it's not right. But I mean, so long as you give him to me in good faith on behalf of the watchmaker, then I will pay his tithes, and yes, not harm you and your friends while they're on the, not harm you and your friends, obvious, which are not my possessions. I don't know if you're friends with this creature or not, but well, I
Very
make
well.
no promises there.
And if you harm me, or any of your associates harm me, or any of my associates besides Vault, then our agreement would be rendered void.
Yes,
Is that acceptable?
that's what an agreement is. If it's not kept, it's void.
Very good. So I hold out my
You
hand.
can see he's getting impatient.
I hold out my hand. I was like, let us shake on it. And I have to, like, full disclosure, on my hand, like my thumb, like the thumbnail is like completely like black and discolored. And two of the other nails are missing. One has started to grow back.
Sure. And this is you're using your sign in blood deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he reaches out to shake your hand. Tell me how he is marked.
So as he shakes my hand, he feels a pain in one of his fingers, as do I. And one of my fingernails that's not discolored is suddenly, it's like blood is like swelling up that finger, and you can see like it's terribly discolored, and there's no actual blood like coming out of my body, but the fingernail looks awful. And the same thing happens to him.
Beautiful. So just mechanically, just to clarify what, like, so that we have pinned down, basically what this means, right, as I understand it, is that what that good faith thing means is that the Watchmaker and you and Gemma and Lily can't act to rescue Vald without violating the deal, right? That's what that, like, you're coming, right? That's that you've we can try and walk the edge of that and see how it goes, but that's what the give him in good faith means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vald is obviously not bound by that, right? And in return, your mission is accomplished, right? He agreed. Like the consortium is bound. One thing I'll say just to everybody, right? So the way the oath works is that the only person who's going to get, if just so that everyone here sees it, right? So if he breaks the deal, which means doesn't pay the Watchmaker or whatever, right? Or tries to harm one of you, right? He dies or is horribly permanently damaged. Your choice, Anton. But if you break the deal, or if anyone else, the Watchmaker or Lily or Gemma breaks the deal, you will have to mark 2 conditions and take seriously harm. Lily or Gemma will not, right? That's because you're the one making the deal. It's on you. So I want to make that clear to everyone, right? You're only bound by the deal in as much as you know and are concerned about what happens to Anton. I just want to make that clear. And he claps his hands. So sorry, are we comfortable with that, Anton, and everyone else?
I am.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Did we know that was the plan going in, or is this just a developing situation that has occurred behind that privacy curtain?
That's up to all of you.
I think it's the situation that's developed. I don't think this was the plan we went in with.
Okay.
Yeah. So So he claps his hands twice. First he looks down at his hand, he sees it, and he smiles, and he says, Herr Schill, I see you have bound me rather tightly. But I appreciate it. It will keep you as honest as it does me. I think he understands what has happened, even as he nurses the pain in his hand, right? And as if to show you how tough he is, right? He claps his hands twice, right on that spot, and you can see him, like, he doesn't wince, but you can see him deliberately not wincing, right? Like he's and like acting all tough. And his lackey pulls the curtain back, and Gemma, you see 2 sort of tuxedoed thugs. One a both about 6'4", 6'5", one a brunette woman, the other a blonde man, both, as I said, in tuxedos, come to either side of Vald and grab them by a shoulder, and start to walk them away. And Lily, where are you in all this? Mission is accomplished, by the way. For anyone who is interested, we can tick that.
So
but there's an ongoing situation going on.
just to make it more interesting,
Mm-hmm.
are there people milling about on the deck?
Oh yeah, no, there's
Okay.
a party going on.
So I think I was actually staying out on the deck to kind of keep an eye on how to get out of this if everything went pear-shaped. So I haven't seen any of what's going on, and I'm not aware of it. The last I knew, I was just kind of keeping an eye on things on the deck in case we needed to get out of there quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, do you have something you want to do on the deck, or should we cut back to Gemma for the moment?
Let's go ahead and cut back to Gemma, because quite frankly, the next thing that I want to do is when I find out what Anton has done, I want to get furious with him.
Sure. Yeah. So, Gemma, you see these two thugs grab Vald and start walking him towards a back door behind the bar. So they're going to come sort of like right by you and by Hilda. And Hilda looks at you and says, "See you're it's not good. It's not good, Gemma. It's not good." And she pours herself a drink and pours herself a shot and drinks it. And yeah, what do you want to do?
And Anton, is he close by?
Anton, are you still at the table? I mean, Herr Adler is quite content to continue the conversation. He's very pleased. Or do you react to Vald being walked away?
I think if Adler is still sitting there, I'll still sit there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Gemma feels a little bound by the reinterpretation of mediating.
Sure.
And so I think Gemma would make his way over to Anton and say, Anton, I think maybe you could enlighten me on what has happened and where Wald is going.
So is it I think is it too late for a flashback?
Not at all. I mean, never too late. The flashbacks in this game are specific things, right? But if one of the flashbacks fit, you definitely can use it.
Because I think, actually, I probably did see this coming, even if I didn't know exactly how it was going to shake out. And I think I would have maybe tried to give Vald something that would help him, maybe escape.
Sure, beforehand.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not violating the deal. That's great. Yeah. I love that. Narrate the flashback, and we'll tick that one off.
Okay.
The way this works is, and we'll give, if Vald will get advantage on the roll using the object that you've given him.
Okay. So I guess while we're sitting in the cafe, before this all happens, I'll wait till a moment when I'm just sort of sitting there alone with Vald, and I'll say, I have something here. And I've kind of looked through my case. I think you should take.
What is it?
Oh, it is this. And I pull out, it looks like I'm holding nothing. And I put it down, there's nothing in my hands, but I put it down and there's a clink. And I make a gesture like I'm sliding something over to you.
I kind of reach out for it, and I'm guessing I feel something, right?
Yeah, it's like an invisible key.
Yeah, I think we can maybe actually keep it shrouded a little bit in mystery, so that when
Oh, okay.
when Vald you make your move, it can be the thing that you need.
Yeah, better.
You know, but I like that it's you giving it to them rather than, I think that is helpful for some of the character stuff happening here. But meanwhile, Gemma is asking you a question.
Yes, I'm going to say to Gemma, well, I wouldn't count Vald. Well, first of all, Herr Adler is there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I guess I can't speak to.
I think Herr Adler, when Gemma asks the question, Herr Adler laughs and he says, "Oh, marvelous, marvelous! Oh, you weren't planning on this, were you? Oh, this is such a delightful turn of events." And he says, "Well, I'll leave you and your friend to chat. Remember," and he holds up his hand with your mark. You have marked us.
Yes, I have.
And he lights a cigarette and walks off. And I think one thing you notice is that, like, as soon as he turns around, like when he thinks that you can't see him, he kind of like grabs the hand where it hurts.
I'll just sort of play it off, I'm laughing or whatever.
Yeah. So you and Gemma are there at the table, and Gemma.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, Gemma, I really think you have to give Vald a little more credit. He can take care of himself or themselves. Sorry.
Well, I have no doubt of that, but that's not really what I was asking. I want to know what exactly has occurred here that has led Wald to go off with, well, if you forgive me, they look like thugs.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, well, we made a very narrow deal. I mean, I can't really do anything or suggest that anyone else do anything to help Vald, but there's all sorts of other things that could befall Herr Adler that would make him sorry that he has made this agreement with me.
Mm-hmm. I think as you say that, Dr. Fuchs whispers, I don't know if either of you noticed this right away, but Dr. Fuchs whispers something in Lee Sophie's ear, pats her on the back, and gets up from the card table, walks over and sits next to you, Gemma, and says, my. Why, aren't you a tall, strapping fellow?
And Gemma is taken aback, says, I am sorry, I don't believe we've met before. Can I ask who you are?
Yes, I am Dr. Hildegard Fuchs. I'm friends with, well, I thought he was your friend, but they seem to have disappeared. But a friend of your acquaintance here, Lee Sophie, and I work with Dr. Adler and some of the other people who are the hosts of this wonderful soiree. Who might you be?
Now, this is out of character. Did we come with kind of incognito names, or are we here just?
You tell me. You tell me. I know that Anton and Vald introduced themselves as by their own names. I asked them that, and they were explicit about it. I don't remember what you said. The other question is, Lily, I forget. Did you describe her to all three of them, or just to Vald? Lily?
Basically, if you're asking about the woman who vivisected Rutgar, I only told Vald. Everybody else has like the floor plan information. Mm-hmm. I might have not mentioned the hatch, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Except to Vald, I would have told Vald everything because.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Gemma, so you have nothing to place on this woman at all.
Yeah. So in response to her question, Gemma will introduce himself as, my name is Heinrich. Well, I'm here because I've been invited.
Well, yes. So I gather, but well, trying to think what she does here. I think she like leans in close and kind of like pushes up the brim of your hat, like very, very impersonal. And she says, "You don't seem the sort of person who usually gets invited here, though I will say, people like you often find their way here anyway."
Well, I'm afraid you have me at something of a loss. This is my first time to be invited on this ship. I'm going to be blunt with you. What exactly is your interest with me?
Well, and she reaches out to sort of like touch your face. And what I'm going to say is, like, if you let her do, I just want the stakes of what's happening here, right? If you let her do this, she'll know. Like right now, you're sort of someone is kind of enough, although she's very suspicious. If you let her do this, she's gonna realize what you are, right? If her skin touches your clay face, and that's gonna give her leverage on you. So I want to like just really, clarify sort of like what the stakes are as she's kind of like reaching out to sort of like cup your face. And the move is almost like a gentle. It's very forward for a stranger, for sure. But it's almost like it almost feels like it's supposed to seem seductive, right? Like she's kind of in femme fatale mode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this seems interesting. I'm going to let her do it. But when she does it, I'm going to kind of mold my clay so that it completely engulfs her hand. And I'm going to do this with a big inhuman grin. I'm going to do it in such a way, I mean, because this is kind of intimate. I mean, we have people around us, but
you're also in a corner booth, right? I mean, like, I think if you keep it quiet and she doesn't make a scene, right, no one might notice, right? Except for Anton, who's obviously sitting right there.
And what I'm trying to do is to get spooky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I want to know, though, like, just to get a sense of, like, so what's your end game on the outcome here? Like, so her hand will be trapped. She has leverage on you, right? That's right. Happened, because she knows. But what's the like? Is it to trap her? Is it to make her just feel? Is it an intimidation move?
Well, I think it is intimidation, and I want to try to get the upper hand so that I can. I know that she has something really in mind that she hasn't told me, and I'm going to try to get it out of her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Roll plus fable.
All right. So I'm going to do this now with, okay. So I do, and then, and the modifier I put as what my plus is, right? Is that. Oh, I think I'm going to have to refresh it. Just give me one second.
Fine, yeah. I also, this is not the right time to remind you of this, but maybe for Anton or for Lily, this game has a move called Establish Your Bona Fides, which we have not been using, but just want to flag that for PCs that if you want to use that move, it's the meeting NPCs in the basic moves tab. It can establish some relationships with NPCs when you meet them. So,
I got a 12 on that.
amazing. So first of all, mark notoriety.
Mhm.
That's pretty powerful. And on a hit, so the world warps to your will. You want to describe how her hand gets sort of trapped in the clay of your face?
Yeah, I mean, she's going in as a faking an intimate pat. What she's getting is a aggressive engulfment that probably kind of takes it all the way up to like half her forearm.
Yeah, her arm is like embedded in your solid clay head,
Mhm.
and you choose one of these sort of 3 downsides from the Get Spooky list.
I always, I mean, this is a move that's like in other games. I always like that your powers do things beyond what you meant.
Yeah. Oh, how mean do I want to be? Okay, I'm going to ask you if you're okay with this. How do you feel about having her arm absorbed into the clay? There's no blood, there's no pain, but your arm closes around her arm and she's sort of just left with like a stump just below her elbow.
Okay.
Are you okay? Are people okay with that? Right. And I don't know whether it becomes I'm not sure exactly what's going on with her arm in your head, but that's a thing that's there now. We'll talk about what that, maybe it will come back later, maybe it won't. But her arm just kind of drops. And she looks at you in horror as she puts her hand over her mouth and like stumbles away. And I think she's trying to find someplace private to vomit, right? This is a truly horrific thing that has happened to her, and she is like out of the picture. I mean, this is a big thing that just happened, but you've bought yourself a few moments at least. I think she's just in utter shock at what just happened to her. But it's loud in here. People are playing cards. Lee Sophie will notice eventually,
Mhm.
right? And Vald, I think as this is going on, you're being led behind the bar. I think as Gemma is walking, as Lee Sophie is being left behind by Dr. Fuchs, Lee Sophie kind of like looks up and makes eye contact with you. Probably just as that back door behind the bar opens and reveals a staircase going down.
I'm trying to think of like what kind of message I would want to try to convey to her.
I'm going to give you the names of these 2 thugs also. You don't have last names, but you have Brune is the woman, the brunette, and Alfred is the man.
I think I give her just sort of it's like briefly kind of like a pleading sort of look, and then a look that's meant to convey you need to get out of here now.
Hold on, where am I looking at here?
It's actually thinking of it. I don't know if she's ever seen me in like a non-human form. Am I still in a? Am I being led through
that's up
here
to you.
as
I
a?
think if you want to, if that's up to you. If you want to have melted into your human form, you totally can.
I think so. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know if the other people on this boat are used to seeing, strange animals and stuff. But yeah, I think I'm no longer a like 8 foot tall forest creature with antlers or whatever. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I just want to look to see if there's like a move here that you're maybe doing. But I'm not sure I see one. So then I think um I think she raises her eyebrows and like looks over at the table where your friends are. Um and I'm going to say she was distracted by you long enough that she doesn't notice that her friend has disappeared, right? Like this brief moment was enough, just because right, and sees just the two of them, and like looks over at you again and raises her eyebrows as to say, should I like alert them, get them, um, uh, and the
Yeah.
big thing here is just that like she's signaling that she's on your side, right? That she
Yeah.
gets that there's something wrong. Mhm.
No, Vold shakes his head kind of slowly, and it's very hard to convey things, without words, and also quickly, since I'm being, marched across the room. Can I? What do I want to try to do here? I mean, I think I want to try.
I mean, I guess the question is like, do you want to let them take you down there, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, I want to let them take me down there, but I also want. Maybe there's a flashback here. I want Leah Sophie to get some kind of reinforcement for me, right? Like some kind of backup that's not my friends here, because they can't help me.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. There's definitely not a like obvious thing that you could do
Right.
actually in the moment to make that happen.
Yeah.
Hold on, but let's take a look at the flashbacks.
Bring all the squirrels from the forest.
I will say that you can use the drill to have bonded with Lee Sophie to prepare for the. Oh, this is for help. That's for lending
Yeah.
aid, though.
I think it's okay. I think there's not really.
Right. I don't know. I don't know
anything
that there's
here in
anyone she
this.
could go to. Right. Like, who would you want?
Right. I don't think so either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
Like, I mean, the thing she could do here is make a scene, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that she really has the power to do.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
She's like giving you the choice, I think, is what she's doing, right? Is she saying like?
Yeah, I think that could. I mean, I want to be taken below deck, because I want to probably free all of these creatures, and also kill Adler if I can. But I think if there's anything that can like give me kind of an advantage, sort of as as I'm being led away, and if there's a way that her creating a scene can do that, is there maybe a way that like she would draw the attention of these thugs, and I could try to covertly get one of their weapons or something? I don't know.
Okay, I think here's the. So you have. I mean, you can have whatever that flash. I mean, you'll have a thing. I don't think you have to worry about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think here's what I'll tell you. Here's I think what this is. Right. I think this is probably keeping calm and carrying on in the face of scrutiny or pressure to sort of like convey to her that you want her to create a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. While under this pressure in this situation. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Mm-hmm. So you roll without a label.
All right. Nice and easy. That's a 5.
Oh dear. Things unravel. So mark a condition, and you tell me what condition. I
think exposed makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. And she gets up and quietly leaves the room. And you're not sure where she's gone or what she's doing, but the scene was not made. A scene was not made.
Yeah.
And yeah, right. you are marched down the stairs and placed in a cell that locks. I want to come back. I think Anton Gemma, is there anything left you want to do in this casino room, or are you going to walk out to Lily back on the deck? Because I think it's time for that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the two of you kind of like make your way out onto the deck. I think you see Gemma. You notice Dr. Fuchs like leaning over, like heaving over the side of the boat, like nearest where that sort of where you came out of the main hall is, and you find Lily. And Lily, where do they find you on the deck?
I was wondering if you could take like a quick 5-10 minute break.
Oh yeah, this is the perfect time. Thank you for catching that. Yes, let's take 5 here, and then we'll do that scene.
Okay, be right back.
Actually, let's come back a quarter after. getting much better at remembering to put my mic down after breaks.
It takes a while to remember, doesn't it?
I've historically been terrible at it. I feel like when I was running Rebel Crown, I think like after every single break, Jex had to remind me, and I finally remembered.
Yeah, there was like a session or two where it was like especially bad. But I think you've done it every single time, both sessions of this game so far.
Excellent.
You should knock on wood real quick.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I'm going to forget again eventually. All right, I'll give John another second, and then I'm curious. I'm very excited to have this scene. See Lily interact with the rest of the team, or some of the rest of the team, I guess.
Jesse, I don't know if I think I just saw it on Slack during the break, but apparently Nerf has done a limited edition M41A pulse rifle from Aliens, which is available for pre-order. If you have $95 you don't know what to do with.
Yeah. We're in a house with a 2-year-old. We're figuring out what we want to do about toy guns, and we have not decided yet. As like a cool piece of memorabilia for me, that's awesome. But I'm also like, but do we want that here? I don't know. Maybe it sounds awesome, but also maybe not. We're still sort of figuring it out.
I didn't have Nerf guns around my kid until she was, I think, 11 or 12.
Right. Oh, his, and then we should get into his cousins who live like a mile away, and we see a lot, are like very into their Nerf guns. So like there's a level in which it might just be unavoidable. So we'll see. We'll see what we're figuring out. Anyways, so Lily, where do Anton and Gemma find you up on deck?
I'm standing away from all these people, and I'm just looking out over the Danube, thinking about the conversation I had with Rutger earlier.
Yeah. So I guess they like approach you from behind, and you hear them. Do you turn?
Of course. And when I see it's just the two of them, I look between them and say, "Where's Vald? Where's Vald?"
And Gemma will look at Anton and say, Anton would be the one who would be more appropriate to answer that question. It was his It was his dealings that put Vald where he is.
And you see a look of fury cross my face, and I say, "God damn it, Anton! Where is Vald?"
Well, you have to understand, he went of his own free will. I didn't force him at all.
At this point, I just slap you and I say, "Answer the question."
Hans Adler took him.
Took him? You say? I thought he went of his own free will.
Well, he went of his own free will with Hans Adler, yes.
Anton, you will give me a straight answer, or you will never have a restful night of sleep again.
Are you exerting leverage on Anton in some way?
There's a whole lot of different ways we could do this if you want. I could start getting spooky. I don't. Is this pulling a fast? Oh no, that's on an NPC.
Yeah. Let me ask. What do you want? Like, what do you want to get from Anton here?
I want a straight answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and Anton is being evasive and dodging.
I said, listen, I'm trying to be honest with you as I know how. There was, no way that we were going to get Adler to pay the ties to the Clockmaker, unless we offered him involved. I didn't see another option.
With that, I'm going to climb up onto the railing of the boat, turn around to face you, and then step backward into the Danube.
No, what are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Once underwater, I'm going to scream as loudly as I can, Rutger! And I want to go ahead and use my roll move again.
Yeah, do it. Roll plus Fable.
Right.
That is an 8. Oh, I'm so happy that's an 8.
Right.
Yeah. So you have good information. You can ask him questions, right? Again, you can't. You're gonna have to. Here's what I'll say. First of all,
Yes.
you could definitely do this if this is what you want. If what you want is information from him, but my sense is that you want him to do something for you, right?
Indeed, I do. I want him to somehow put information in Vault's mind. I know he may not be able to operate physically, but.
So I think, I mean, if you're, this is up to you, but it's the same role in terms of like bonus and everything. I think this is maybe more a get spooky than your roll move. Are you cool with that?
I'm okay with switching it over to get spooky.
Right. I think that you're warping the world to your will. You're summoning this spirit to do your bidding, which is different than summoning the spirit to like ask for information.
So on a 7 to 9, choose 2. I'm reasonably sure that jumping off the goddamn boat in the middle of a party has drawn some attention.
Oh no, absolutely.
So, and I'll go ahead and mark a stress, because maybe it's the case that in order to do what I'm hoping Rutger can do, Rutger needs something from me. Maybe something intangible that takes a piece of me.
I mean, this is also just stressful, right? I mean, you're like underwater, like you're exerting your power, but you can't breathe. You're yelling, right? Mm-hmm. So I think as you bob up to the top of above water and like take a gasping breath, you hear that growling voice again, and you don't see the specter this time, and you're not even hearing his voice with your ears as you usually do. Mm-hmm. But he says, Why have you called me again, Lily?
Because a traitor sold a friend of mine to those monsters. That friend of mine is supposed to help avenge you, and what happens? This traitor, please save my friend. Please help my friend. Please do whatever you can to aid him.
All right. Do you have something concrete you want him to do, or are you sort of leaving it up to me as the player of the NPC to sort of interpret that? I'm happy to go either way. I just don't want to. I want to make sure this goes the way you want it. You succeeded, you know.
You know what? I'm open. Jex, if you're okay with this, I'm open to letting Jesse figure out what that looks like. I think if it was a 10, maybe I would have been more comfortable saying I want this to happen. But since it's a 7 to 9, maybe it's not quite what I expected, but it still helps.
Yeah. So, I think I think this sort of like deformed and or partially formed, I should say, and mutilated werewolf specter appears to you outside the cage. You've been left alone, at least for the moment, outside, and there are other the area where you are is actually relatively empty. There aren't other prisoners here, and you can see it doesn't have that much capacity, right? It's not a huge space. You hear the sound from down the hall as you're there of creatures moaning and crying and growling and barking, but nothing that sounds sort of sentient to you, right? We're talking, it sounds to you like magical animals, not sort of magical people like you, right? But over in that cacophony you see, and you hear that growling voice that I think Lily probably described to you. Well, Lily, did you tell them about Rutger when you were describing all this stuff to them, or did you leave off your source of information?
I told Vault.
Yeah, so Vault. So I think you
Vault knows.
recognize Rutger from Lily's description, and Rutger says, "I can't open the gates, but if you can get out, I can lead you to escape." And I like that. This is sort of what he's offering you, right? He will lead you to that hatch out and distract or harry any guards who get in your way. If you want more than that, you're going to have to do something, but that's sort of like what he can do for you.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect.
But you have to get yourself out somehow.
Yeah, well, I think I have a way of doing that. Yeah. Probably. The thing is that I don't want to just escape.
I know.
And also, it's not going to be good for my employer if I kill this guy, probably.
I mean, one of the options was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
was if you, I think one of the options was destroy them. So.
So I guess I'm wondering, and Vald probably has no way of knowing this, but I guess just as a me player, is there going to be an opportunity where Adler and or Fraulein Doctor, I forgot her name now, Fuchs, are like here where I can enact that revenge?
Here's what I'm going to say. Like, if you want to actively pursue that in this moment, you can do that, and we can play that out. Other options, like if we want them, are you can if you want to try to figure out a way to set the boat on fire while letting as many animals out as you can down here. You certainly or something like that. You could certainly do that. Right? That will obviously have its own set of consequences and may not get you everything you want, depending upon what the role looks like. The other thing you could do is just escape, and these characters are around, and you get to set your agenda. So if you want to make these people your enemy number one and make this a goal, make stopping them a longer term goal, I think that probably makes a little bit more sense in context.
Yeah. So here's what I initially had in my head was that I was not going to be this. It wasn't going to be this soon that there was an opportunity for rescue or escape. And I pictured actually being taken back to wherever their actual base of operations is, and potentially being there for some time. And I get though that I don't want to be
well, this is so far as you can tell, this is their main base of operations, right? I mean, they may have other sort of locations, but this seems to be their main operating area in the city, right? Okay. This is where this stuff is happening. Look, the other piece of this is right. part of the reason we're going like this has sort of gone in this direction is because Lily wanted to get you out now, right?
Mhm, mhm, right.
You can also tell Rutger, thank you very much for your help, but no, right? And like we can just cut away, and you can like we can mission over. They get away, and you're imprisoned, and you know we can sort of play out the you know play out like in a little bit more zoomed out with you imprisoned trying to like undermine. I will say that one of the tensions in this game, and this is one of the things I'm curious about, I think, is that like on the one hand, there's a lot of the mission based play is central to it, and at this draft, it's even more central to it than it was the previous version playtest I played. But there's also a little bit or a lot of the kind of like urban shadows, like individual agenda, follow the players around the city kind of element here too. And I think there's like a tension here. Like we could play this out either way, right? I think it's not that interesting for you to be in prison for a long time, but we could certainly the mission piece here. You could send Rutger away, and then you know we can sort of play out in sort of a more zoomed out kind of way some scenes of you in prison and working against the consortium from within the boat over you know a little over a more zoomed out time while the rest of the crew is doing other things out in the city before the next mission. Like it's sort of like, what are you interested in doing?
I think I get the other part of it is that I sort of worry that me escaping would have immediate consequences for, you know, for my crew and for the Clockmaker. I mean, I guess technically we still, you know, upheld our end of the bargain, but
well, so Hans Adler will know the bargain was key. This is the beautiful things about what Anton did, right? Hans Adler will know that the bargain was kept.
Okay.
Because I mean, he may be like mad or whatever, right? He like think that you somehow or another got around it, but he's bound by it in a serious way, right? Because you won't have broken it if you escape. Oh, Lily.
Oh shit.
I think you may already have broken it.
I mean, technically, Rutger's none of us. Rutger's
He's there. He. We'll let it go for now. But I think I do think that if like Rutger is proactive in getting you out, like that's not acting in good faith, right? That's what he asked for, right? Good faith.
So I mean, I think that then it has to be that Vault kind of stays for a bit, and I think, you know, it can be real zoomed out. Like, you know, we don't obviously it doesn't have to be like resolve everything right away, because I am interested by kind of having these, you know, enemies, especially since I mean they really kind of represent everything that, you know, Vault hates. But I think, you know, that like that being the case, like knowing what the deal is, you know, knowing that it was Lily who sent Rutger. So I'm just reading what.
Yeah, so just to clarify, right? So Anton says he doesn't think he could bind anyone who didn't shake, and that's right. Lily's not bound, right? She doesn't have to keep the deal. Nothing will happen to her, but you bound yourself that your whole group wouldn't act, right? Wouldn't act, and so you're the one who's bound.
No, right? What I said was that I wouldn't ask them to act.
I mean, I think I was pretty clear when I like set what the term when I made right. None of you can act to do this, right? That's how that was understood.
Okay, if I broke it, I broke it. It's fine.
Well, but we'll see. I mean, I think if Vault doesn't accept the help, we're not going to let it be broken, right?
Yeah, and I think Vault doesn't accept the help. I think Vault says, you know, tell Lily I appreciate it, but we're not going to get our revenge this way. And tell her that I did do this of my own free will.
Yeah. So Rutger kind of gives a pained nod and disappears. And Lily, you hear, he would not accept my help. He said that you he said that this was his this was the way towards revenge, towards my revenge. That's what they told me. Are you still in the water, Lily? Are you like treading water there? Like
I think I'm
everyone's
just kind of I'm trying to make sure that I'm out of sight. So
Right.
looking for all the world like maybe I'm just another drowned woman in the Danube.
Sure. I think like and like there's a crowd, like I think part of like you took right, you'd call attention. So there's people looking for you. There's like lights now, right, on the water, right, trying to find you. But
I think
you're
I've
all
actually swum off under, and I'm like under a bridge or something like that,
yeah,
trying
you're
to
fine.
hide
You
in the
can
darkness.
get away. I'm fine with that. Right.
Yeah.
I just want to sort of like set the scene
Sure.
around you, right? That you're being sought. And how do you respond to Rutger?
I'll thank him and say, if this is what Vald thinks, then he's better at this than I am. He knows more about getting revenge than I do.
Wonderful. And I think now,
And I'll swim off into the darkness.
yeah, I think we cut away to the next morning, in the checkpoint. I assume Anton and Gemma go to this meetup. Lily, do you show up?
I think I'm going to play dead for at least a day or two.
Sure. So yeah, Anton and Gemma, you show up at the checkpoint, and the watchmaker is sitting at his usual table, smoking a cigar, reading the paper. He reads about the girl overboard, at the party, on the boat party, missing. And he looks at the two of you and says, well, I presume Lily will show up if she's all right. As he points to the headline and says, and Vald, where are they?
Vald, Anton.
Well, we may have had to make some concessions to secure the deal you wanted. But the good news is that if Herr Adler does not pay you the tithes, things will go very badly for him.
And I have received my first payment this morning. Really excellent job. I'm always pleased to have to see your fine work. Really quite wonderful. Each one of you, all four of you should take leverage on the watchmaker. When you complete a mission, you get that. And he says, and is there anything else I can do for you? Oh, I think it's Clockmaker. You're right, Clockmaker. Mm-hmm.
Well, I do have a question. I met a woman on the boat named Hildegard Fuchs. Do you know anything about her?
I mean, I knew everything I knew. Most of what I know about these people, I learned from you so far. Now that we have some names and some names and a sense of their business, I can put out the word but it will definitely it will definitely it will take a little time. So he can get you some information on her, but he doesn't have it right away.
Okay. Well, and I think I also will say, well, and if you have an opportunity to send Miss Fuchs a message, you might let her know that Gemma has something valuable of hers that she might want.
I certainly will. At the very least, we know where to find her some of the time, right? She's on the consortium's boat.
And I do want to know something. I want to know if you'd permit this. I have this Tinker Tailor move.
Yeah.
And I have her arm that has been kind of ingested somehow into me.
Absorbed, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if I could try that Tinker Tailor move on her arm to make it so that it still might be possible for her to put it back on.
So I don't think you need to roll for that right now. I'm perfectly happy with sort of like having that be a possibility in the fiction right now. And then like depending upon what happens in the appropriate moment. I mean, or unless what you want, let's present some options. Number one, we can sort of just keep it a possibility in the fiction that you don't have to roll for. And then in the appropriate moment, you can describe like what happens, and we can figure out if that's the right role, if there's a different role for it, right? But some means of reattaching it for her.
Right.
Or if you want to like make a device out of it, right? That's like not necessarily specific to her, right? I mean, if you want to do more specifically what Tinker Tailor is for, and that could be used as like some kind of a prosthetic for her, but could also be a prosthetic for somebody else or some other, something you could append to the end of your clay arm. Whatever you want, right? Like we could do that right now. I think those are the things that make the most sense, right? Tinker Tailor now, if you want it to be a more generally useful device, but if you want it to be specific to her, to wait till the moment that you're with her and then figure out what you want out of that moment.
Yeah, I think I'll make it specific to her.
All right. Yeah. So we'll say that's 100% something you can do in the fiction. I will say that I'm going to reserve the downside to doing it that way is I will reserve the right if there's like an appropriate hard move I could make with it on a failure. I might do that before you have the opportunity. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's sort of like the downside to waiting is all. But I think Tinker Tailor is more about like you're going to make a thing that you can use now, and okay, fantastic. You could also, so we are now mission is over. We can talk about what mission you want next, or we can. I think we're gonna get cut to Vald in a few minutes. Before I think we're gonna our last scene before we finish is gonna be Vald in the boat. But I would like to get a sense from the three of you first of just kind of like what you're trying to do during this kind of like we'll call it downtime. But it doesn't necessarily have to be downtime, right? Like if you want to do something like big and proactive, you can. We won't necessarily. We might save it for next session, but do any of you have sort of like a sense of like what you're looking for? Like Gemma, if you want to go and track her down, you can do that. Lily's very good at finding people and things.
What if I want to track Hildegard
down? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would. I don't know.
Like, is that something? Lily, what are you disappeared? What are you doing while you're disappeared?
So how much do we know about the Clockmaker?
Almost nothing. He's a black marketeer. He's very mysterious. He controls a lot of the black market in and out of the city, and he wants to control it all. That's what this move was last about. He is parsimonious with information, with money. He has leverage over all of you, as I've said. Right, that's how you ended up working for him. But in terms of like his personal life, where he lives, he basically works out of the checkpoint. Right, like he's not there 24 hours, but he's there a lot of the time.
Doesn't that violate the checkpoint's rules?
No, the checkpoint's rules are you can't do violence or plot violence on the premises.
Okay.
So it's true, right? He has to have another base somewhere to like make plans. But he takes most of his meetings in the checkpoint for that reason also, right? That it's safe.
Yeah. So I want to follow him. He's the person I'm tracking.
Sure. And
I'll deal with Anton later. Anton is
And Anton, what's sort of, you don't have to, if you want to wait till like next session to sort of set this, you can, but like what's your sort of like downtime like goal here?
Well, I'm always going to be looking for that book. I think if I have leverage on the Clockmaker, I might try to like get him to help me.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now. Lily, we'll do you tracking the Clockmaker, then we'll cut to Vald in prison on the boat, and that will be our final scene. And then we'll start out the next session with Anton meeting with the Clockmaker again. Depending on what happens with Lily here, we may have to finagle some of that, but I'm not that worried. We'll make it work. And then Gemma will figure out you and Dr. Fuchs, whether you want to try and do something with Lily to collaborate, just go to the boat and see what happens. Maybe Vald has done something in the meantime to, but we'll try and put all of those pieces together for sure. Another person, right? Hilda works on that boat and probably has seen Dr. Fuchs around. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Fuchs is also attached to Vald's friend. So you have levers to pull to find her in all kinds of ways. All right. So Lily, so talk to me. So you're waiting outside the checkpoint for when?
Oh, I'm. Well, this actually is an interesting question. Can I track him with spirits?
Yeah, I mean, talk to me about how your hunt for Red October. Like, how do you track people?
I mean, in this situation, I'm sure I'm asking the city's dead to help me find him and follow him so that I can stay out of sight. Because the entire point of this is, right now I'm missing, and I like that. That suits me.
Yeah. So where are you hiding out as you send out this message to the spirits to track the Clockmaker when he leaves the checkpoint for you?
Oh, I'm near the entrance to a market. I have a ratty shawl pulled over me, and I'm shaking a tin cup.
Sure.
Asking for alms.
Sure. And yeah. So let's roll. Let's roll that Hunt for Red October move and see what the spirits come back with you.
There's a 7. Not great, but
yeah.
Good enough.
Well, you get what you want. You're just gonna have to mark stress. Yeah. So I think a spirit comes and whispers to you, and says, and I think this is like maybe at one point the spirit had a personality and was a person, but it's now like just kind of one of the amorphous dead of the city, right? And it whispers in your ear. It says, you can find him. There is through the sewers under the Ferris wheel. He has a small room, where which is his most secret headquarters. He has several of these headquarters. I don't know that he stays in any one all at once, but this is where the dead have identified him and are pinning him. That like being, they'll let you know if he goes somewhere else until you find him, right? But I think the stress here is not about like traversal or anything, right? It's the it's the stress of forcing the amorphous dead to give them shape and voice, right? Because giving them form and voice is so against their nature at this point. But it's the easiest way to get this kind of like generalized order done, right? If you pick a particular person, then that has more sort of concrete shape and form and personality. It's more like they're more bound by the physical and can't just like reach out across the city and find them, right? So
does that mean the spirit has been dead for quite a while?
Centuries, a millennium, who knows, right? It's whatever it was is gone, and now it's just, like I said, a wisp of sense and voice that is barely that if you don't sort of like force it into shape.
Yeah.
But it communicates with the streets and buildings and walls of the city, right?
Okay.
Like it's a part of the city almost. So yes, you can find him when you want until you find him, and you mark a stress. Vald. So it's been a day, and you've been fed, and fed well, like a reasonable human meal. Do you eat it? Do you eat human food? Like, what's your deal there?
Well, I have an affinity for human treats, and that's kind of
Right,
why I
right,
ever
right.
left.
Right.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think I don't think that this form that I shifted into is necessarily like my true form either. Like, I think I sort of take a lot of different forms.
Sure. I mean,
But I do.
Do you have a single true form even?
I mean, as sort of like a forest god, probably not,
Right.
right? Like, I think there are certain forms that I tend to take most often,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely need sustenance. I think any kind of food is.
Yeah. So you've been fed like reasonably, like a reasonable breakfast, like eggs and some vegetables for breakfast, and a robust sandwich for lunch, and always with like a little nice, nothing super fancy, but like a little dessert pastry alongside it, for both meals. And it's like mid afternoon. You've been sitting there for a while, when Dr. Fuchs comes down and sets a chair in front of your cell, and you've been fed by the it's those two guards, right? What did I call them?
Brune and
Brune
Alfred.
and Alfred, right? They've been feeding you. They don't say a word. They're silent. And she sits down at a chair, and you can see, her arm ends about here,
Mhm.
right? And she's wearing like a lab coat and a pair of slacks, over a nice blouse, right? The tan slacks and a sort of cream colored blouse. The lab coat is open, and she flips the chair around, so she's like sitting on the chair backwards, right?
Oh, she's cool.
She's trying to project coolness, right? And leans
Flips her ball cap backwards. Sorry.
Yeah. Adjusts her glasses on her face. She wasn't wearing glasses the night before, right? But now she's in scientist mode, and like she goes as if she's about to lean both of her arms on the back of the chair, and like realizes she can't, and so she just puts the one right over, and she says, "Well then, who are you?"
Do I have to roll just to change shape, or only if I'm doing it to get like a specific, like to do one of the get spooky?
I mean, I think. Let me take a look at this for a second. If you just want it to be kind of like cosmetic, you can just do it. But I think like if you're actively trying to intimidate her, right, then you need to.
I don't think I'm actively trying to intimidate her yet. Though maybe after I say this, maybe I actually am. But I think. No, I mean, I guess this is trying to intimidate her. I tell her I'm a god, and I want to shift into, a shape that kind of represents that.
The same shape you were in before, a bigger, more terrifying one, a less physical one. Are you like a shadow creature? Like, what does this look like?
It's a bigger, more terrifying one, I think. Sorry, I started setting up a Pinterest board, so I'm just kind of like looking through to see what sort of shape I want to be taking here. Yeah. So kind of the thing I'm going for is this sort of more almost kind of like a sort of looking sort of like a troll, but with these like big kind of curling goat horns, and I have like these like instead of fur on my shoulders, it's like like moss and leaves and stuff like
Sure.
that. And
Sure. Yeah.
I'm very, very like I will take up the entire size of this cell.
Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely trying to intimidate her, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So roll get spooky. Roll plus fable.
And my fable is 2. Seven.
7. So you choose 2. Tell me what you choose on that.
I'm gonna struggle to keep my mind or soul fully intact. I think that this kind of form is not one that I change into very often.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll mark stress, and I feel like both of these are interesting, but it kind of feels like the thing here is that I've drawn attention to myself and made myself a target for now or for later.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So two things happen. First of all, she startles back. Like there's no back to her chair, right? She startles back and just like falls over on her ass. And is like kind of scrambling back on her. She still has on her elbows and butt from you, and she says, "Well, that is certainly something. I've never had a god under the knife before, but well, we'll have to figure out how to contain you." As she sort of like struggles to her feet and like scrambles off, and you've like 100% like bought yourself time, right? But you're stuck. But then the other piece here, right? You've drawn attention to yourself, and made yourself a target. I think it's time now to introduce. You're not going to love this, but I think this is the right way to do this. I think that all of a sudden, a hole opens up in the bottom. Like your cell is kind of against the bottom of the boat, right? A hole opens up in the bottom of the boat, and you find yourself caught up in a current. And you're swirled away to caught in this current, and you're swirled away and cast on the banks of the river, near one of the markets, probably the market where Lily is, and sitting next to you is a form in water, and it says cousin. Like it's a humanoid form. No, it's not. It's a mouth appears in the river, a gigantic mouth on the where you're sitting on the shore, soaked. It says, cousin. I felt your anger and distress. And I had to release you from that charnel place. And you've caught the attention of at least one of the spirits of the Danube. Well, you're free. But now if you want to get in there, you're going to have to get yourself back in there. And the boat is, they'll repair the boat. Like it's not such a big deal there, but they're going to be looking for you also.
I think we just get a shot of me sort of shifting back into that human form and like reaching into my breast pocket and pulling out the skeleton key that Anton gave me earlier and being like, well, I guess I don't need this now.
And are you okay with that? Like, I know it sort of like thwarts your immediate plan, but I
No, you said you're not going to like this, and I'm sure Vald does not like it, but Jax, the human player, loves it. So
I'm just gonna call them Dan, a spirit of the Danube. Yeah. So now this is a person that you can be dealing with, and I think that's the end of this session here. All right, folks. Thanks for anyone who was. Oh, end of session. We have end of session moves that we forgot to do last time, which I'm fine with because we only had a little bit of actual play. But let's do our end of session moves. End of session. Each player should look at their mission objectives, which was your mission objectives were to get them to pay a tithe or destroy them, and you have done that. So everyone gets to mark XP, and you all get leverage on the Clockmaker to start with. If you have abandoned the mission objective, cross it off. You have not. If you made progress on all remaining missions, there was only the one so far. Now let's go around. Gemma, do you want to add a personal mission objective to your list?
This is Gemma being perhaps too idealistic, but yeah, I think Gemma has an objective to reform Hildegard Fuchs.
Sure, I think that it suits your sort of idea, your interpretation of your word for sure.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, absolutely. So add that to your mission objective list. Vald, how about you? Do you have any personal mission objectives you want to add? Sounds like you do.
yeah, kill Fuchs and Adler.
Some people are going to be at odds here. Wonderful. Anton, any personal mission objectives you would like to add? And if you want to, I know you have this overarching goal. That should probably be a personal mission objective there, right?
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
Which is, remind me what it is. It's how do you want to phrase it?
I need to find a book that's going to let me out of my contract with the devil.
Yeah, fantastic. And Lily, any personal mission objectives?
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, we can now add more than one?
Yeah, you can add as many as you want. You should tell me why you're interested in pursuing it, though.
Okay, so generally, since you brought this up with John, I'd like to track down any surviving members of my family.
Sure. Yeah, that definitely should be there.
Or at least, and if I can't find, if they're no longer surviving, at least find out what, that they are no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
I am right there with Vald on kill Fuchs and Adler.
Great.
I haven't quite figured out. I mean, at this point, the Clockmaker strikes me as a valid target, because if Anton is doing his bidding and Anton chose this course of action, clearly the Clockmaker needs to be dealt with in some way.
Sure, we can leave. What I suggest doing is leaving that out for now until you have like a more concrete kind of framing for it. And my guess is that by the middle or end of next session, you'll know what that is pretty clearly. So.
And I want to teach Anton a lesson. Now, I'm okay with that, with leaving that kind of vague and amorphous until the end of next session, maybe, and I have a better idea of how I want that to go.
Sure.
But
sure, definitely. I'm just looking over everyone's release moves. And I think that when you sort of said like whatever this oh no, because it has to make you do something, so never mind. But I think you were heedless.
You mean when I went over the rail?
Yep, I think you hit that release. I'm just gonna go through people's release.
Okay. So I check that off and mark XP.
Mark XP, and I think.
And then does that clear stress?
Yeah, it clears the stress as well. Yes.
It clears a stress.
Yes.
Okay.
And then yeah, so if you want to think about how you want to frame that Anton related mission and wait till the beginning of the next session to add it, that's fine. Just looking over the people's release moves in case we missed any. Anton, I think you made a calculated risk with something important on the line when you handed Vald over to Adler. You can definitely mark that, clear a stress, and take an XP.
Okay.
We're probably going to come to that first one for you, Vald, pretty soon if you want to keep that scene with the Danube going. But we're not. I don't think we hit it yet. I don't think you've hit any of yours yet, Gemma. But we should keep an eye on them during the sessions also. And you should be looking at them as you think about what you want to do. Cool. All right. So good. That's end of session. That's also those are release moves that happened. And we will now end the broadcast, and we will come back to this Saturday night. Will be our next session. So goodbye, folks.